It Lives Inside was directed by and written by Vishal Datta in his directorial debut. And this is a movie that I actually got to check out pretty early because of the Fantasia Film Festival, which I haven't talked about on this channel yet, but I'll talk more about it at some point in a video. I've been working at that festival for the last 3 weeks. I got to see this with Vishal Datta in attendance. In fact, so me and a lot of people got to check it out on the bigger screen about a month and a half before it's actually out in theaters. So this is a pretty early review that you're getting. Desperate to fit in at school, Sam, played by Megan Suri, rejects her East Indian culture and family to be like everyone else. However, when a mythological demonic spirit latches onto her former best friend, she must come to terms with her heritage to defeat it. I was actually pretty excited for this movie because I just thought the idea of a debut director doing horror right now, we're getting some really good stuff in that department at the moment. So I am excited to see what new, fresh takes to horror can be brought to the big screen. And I cannot think of the last time a horror movie which has like Hindu culture and, sort of religious texts and, stories written into that actually came out, especially in the West. That is pretty awesome to think about. And so naturally I walked into this movie and I was curious to see how they were going to pull it off. And I can honestly say that I had a very good time with It Lives Inside. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it's a pretty solid debut from Vishal Datta, who does a really good job directing the film. It tries to go into some pretty extreme places despite the fact that it has a PG-13 rating, but it tries to make the most extremes with it. There's a couple of times where it does dial back certain things being shown because obviously if you try to go too far then you'll end up with an R rating, but he manages to make the most of it with certain moments and create a genuinely sinister and creepy feeling that exists throughout the movie. There's a lot of times where the Pishach, which you don't really see, there's that aspect to it where it's like constantly there. It seems to be around our main character, Sam. And Megan Suri plays her really, really well. I thought she gave a really good performance in this movie, as did everybody else who is in the movie. I think there's no shortage of great performances in here. Datta does a really good job of bringing those to screen in the best way possible. And he writes a lot of the family dynamics, particularly that, into the script really, really well, particularly with Sam and her mom. Her mom is someone who has moved from India to the United States. She's not fully accustomed to the US. She wants her daughter to try and embrace more of the traditional, values of, the Indian culture when it comes to religion, when it comes to mannerisms and behavior. And so there is a bit of a clash of like cultures happening because Sam's like, I want to try and embrace that part of things. And I want to try and, step away from this also because, we're here, right? But I think there is something in that feels incredibly relatable because if you're somebody who has been somewhere else before coming to another country, there is that feeling that goes along with it. I can tell you that it happened with me. I moved out of India and that was years ago now. And there was that aspect to it, which was, coming over to a new place, trying new things, trying to be away from that. But eventually, you just kind of work out a balance because it is ultimately what you've been raised with, what you have. And so you want to be like, okay, I'm in a new place, there's this new stuff, but you also want to try and honor what you have known and what you've grown up with. And so there is that aspect to it that comes up in your life if you can relate to that in some way. And I think the film does a pretty good job of making that apparent while you're watching it. I thought that was really, really effective, and it was very, very poignantly done. The horror stuff is great. There are a couple of times where it does do some jump scare stuff, like there's a sequence with lights going off, which is pretty effective. But there are those moments where you see that and you go, well, it's that cliche of horror. There's a lot of tropes in here that have been inserted in, which I can see as an issue for some people. Some might say that that's really bothering like the experience of the movie. I would say it's not really a problem except for maybe a couple of moments where I really feel like they, went a little too much into that, trying to surprise you sort of thing. That was probably my one thing where I was like, okay, maybe we can tone it down over here. Every time the stuff happened, like almost in camera when it was happening while you were seeing it in front of you without trying to cut to something or a sudden reaction. I think those scares were a lot more effective. Like there's one that takes place in a house at the later point of the movie that I thought was very effective as a result of it. Also, the visual design of the film, the way it looks and it's shot, really, really great. When it comes to stuff with the Pishach, I thought it was really awesome. I don't want to go too much into that because I don't want to give too many things away about this creature, but the way they build the story around it, using the real legend, which is present, I thought they did a really good job with that. But I would say the biggest issues with this movie, if I had to pinpoint them, would be that yes, it does have some predictable story beats. You see a lot of it coming from a mile away, but there are a couple of surprises that they do sprinkle in, which helps. But also the fact that sometimes I feel like the horror could have been a little bit more, less jump scary at times and a little more, natural or organic. That's some stuff that I've already mentioned in the video so far, and I'm bringing that up again. Beyond that, I had a really good time with It Lives Inside. I thought it was a really good exploration of one culture and, sort of bringing in the horror elements into that and interwoven, between that and the characters and everything else that's going on. I thought it made for a pretty solid experience of a movie. I'm not sure if everyone's going to dig it because it does make some choices along the way, which some might like, some might not like, but I think it works pretty solidly. I repeat myself over there, and I am curious to hear what more people have to say when it does hit theaters next month. I'm gonna give It Lives Inside an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed the movie. I really, really did. And I have seen some other stuff at Fantasia, so I can talk to you guys more about that when, things are dropping. I'll have some more reviews out, and if there's trailers or something like that. Right now, there's no marketing for some of the movies that I did want to talk about, and so I'm going to have to wait. But until that point, what I can talk about, I will talk about. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.